I don't have a churu with me, so pretend that this pen is a churu or a squeezable treat. You can also use a lick mat with baby food and use your hand to lead the cat. When we do cross legs lap work, it's important that we are flexible enough to sit on the floor with our legs crossed and our knees fairly low to the ground. Now, I can sit pretty flat, with my knees pretty flat to the ground because I've been socializing for so many years. I've learned how to just stretch that down. But if your legs are tight, I've worked with some people, like this is the most that their hips allow their legs to go down when they're crossed legs. If this is the case, don't do it this way and go with a variation that talks about what to do when you are not flexible enough to sit cross-legged, okay? If it's like this, it's not gonna work. Just skip this and head over to the variation. For most people, maybe cross legs looks like this, and that's going to be totally fine to do with the cat, because we're gonna be having the cat come in through where our hips are, not where the knees are, so that's okay. So when we do cross legs hip to hip, it literally means bringing the cat from one hip to the other hip. And the reason why we go through the hip is this hip, other than the ankles, the hip is the second lowest point of our body when we're sitting this way. And so, you know, if we have the cat come in this way, there's a couple things that don't work. One is it's so high, it really is a higher hurdle for the cat to overcome to climb up. But also a lot of times if the cat goes this way, they can go back down or whatever, and it's really hard to get them to sit in the hole, or they might like bypass the hole completely. And so if we have them coming from the hip, their body's going to be where the hole is at as they cross to get to the other hip. So what we do is we hold the squeeze stick or the churu, and you're going to start low, so keep it pointed down near the floor, and then you're going to kind of follow the contour of the hip as you're coming up, and the cat's going to follow it up. And you want to make sure you keep this churu really close to your stomach. So a lot of people will put it in front of them, but again, we want to really have them go from hip to hip, skimming the stomach area, or at least being very close to the stomach area. I've just found that that's the easiest way for them to come across. For some reason, when you have them try to cross in the middle, it's a lot harder to get those back legs up onto you. So keeping the churu close to your stomach, you bring them across and you lead the cat this way. And then when you get to the other side, you're going to bring the churu down to the floor by following the curve of your hip and down to the floor and leading the cat that way. You don't want to pull the churu this way, because what that does is that gets the cat to step off you, which we don't want to do, right? We want the body to stay on you, and that's why we go around the curve of the hip. So don't make the mistake of going off your body. Another thing that people tend to do is they hold the churu too high. And when they hold it too high, it's an angles thing. You're encouraging the cat to face up, to go upward instead of across. So when you keep it nice and low, the cat's gonna go forward. It may take a while, so don't worry if it takes 1 week, 2 weeks for the cat to be willing to get those back legs onto you. And it may also take some cats a week to even get those paws onto you, and that's okay. We just go at the speed of that particular cat. And the idea is you're gonna get the cat to come across, and when the cat gets to this point where that back leg steps down, you're going to take the churu and you could do two things. One is push it inward towards the chin/chest of the cat, so like this area. If you push it in, the cat's gonna bend the head down and move back and go into a sitting position. Or sometimes I'll have it high, I'll bring it up higher so the cat's looking up and tend to go sit. I do find that this is easier for me and works most of the time, but if that's not working for you, try going a little bit higher and having the cat sit, right? So by bringing your hand forward, the cat's gonna try to follow the churu and then sit down. And it may take a week or more for the cat to finally sit down. That is okay. What we want to do is to get the cat to sit and be comfortable, but initially you might just see the cat standing like this for a while you're giving Chiru. That's normal in the beginning, and that's why we work towards like just getting that other foot down into the hole and then have them sit down. What I also do for, because remember when we do this step, for the most part, the cat's completed the petting sequence unless you had to do a variation and jump to this step and then you're going to return to the petting sequence. But for the cats who are already comfortable being pet all over, so all advanced petting stuff, another thing that I do is when I get them to sit down, their paw's in an awkward position right here. So what I'll do is I'll take my hand and I'll slide it under the paw and take my hand and just pull it forward so that it's like a moving floor for them. I get it under the paw, slide it with the paw forward so that the paw is draped over my thigh. And that way it's a nice, comfortable position. It's important whenever you're trying to get the cat into position to stay and hang out in your lap that the cat is comfortable. So look for signs where the cat is like squished, so the body's squished somehow here or in the front or is in an awkward angle. You can imagine if you are uncomfortable sitting in a chair or a sofa, you're not going to stay there very long and you're going to want to hightail it out of there once that yummy treat is gone. So it's important that we get them nice and comfortable and think of it usually as like extending the body.